Hey, it's Jacob. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about 8 reasons why I wanted to learn Python. So by the end of this video, you'll know more about my own reasons for choosing Python. It's really specific to me. I have other videos if you want to know about reasons that are relevant to you, but this one is not one of them. So this video is going to be a little bit more personal. It's not going to be about you necessarily learning a lot of things. But specifically, I'll talk about neural networks / AI, taking control over your keyboard and mouse, VBA, cross-platform languages, and popularity. I organize those reasons by increasing order of importance, so make sure you watch till the end if you don't want to miss out on the best ones. Now let's get started. Number one reason is that it's free. There are a lot of other languages that are really good, but you need to pay for them, like MATLAB. And MATLAB is great because if you have access to it, it's really easy to learn. However, for me, if I want to help other people, they don't necessarily have access to it. Python is a great option if you don't have access to any paid software. The point for me was also to help as many people as possible, and most people don't have access to that language. So that's why I wanted it to be free. So that's the first reason. Reason number two, it's a cross-platform language. A cross-platform language means it's easy to work with on any operating system. So if you want to work with Python on Windows, Linux, or Mac, it's going to work extremely well on all those platforms. So for me, personally, I use Ubuntu at home, but Ubuntu is a Linux platform. So for me, it's really important to have my software to be able to work on Windows and Linux, because those are the main platforms I use. I don't use Mac, but I use those two platforms. So even though I primarily work with Python on Linux, most of my videos here are going to be about Python on Windows. And again, the reason why I can do that is because there is not that many differences between those two platforms for that language. Next up, reason number three, it has AI potential. So let me explain what I mean by that. So here, when I talk about AI, I specifically talk about neural networks. So if you don't know what a neural network is, it's basically something you train based on examples of whatever you want it to do, and then it's going to do whatever you want it to do. That's a very simplified explanation of what neural networks are, but that's basically what it is. And neural networks are very different from what we call heuristic code. And heuristic code is basically everything where you tell the program exactly what to do. So if any of this is confusing to you, a simplified version of what I just said would be heuristic code is programming and neural networks are something else. And that something else involves examples of what you want the software to be able to do. And when I say examples, I'm not talking about like 3 examples. I'm talking about like thousands or millions of examples. So that's the reason why you probably don't need it. And I personally never had to use neural networks. So this is the state of the art of neural networks right now. For all intents and purposes, we can say that neural networks are basically not useful just because we don't have that amount of examples to train those neural networks. So we can't really use them. So right now, it's easier and more reliable to use heuristic code to do whatever I'm doing. That being said, maybe it's going to change in the future. The point is AI in the form of neural network is going to be more and more prevalent, and working with a language that is well suited for it might become less and less of an option in the future. So just in case you don't know, Python is one of the most well-suited language for neural networks, if not the most well-suited for neural networks. That is the language that is used for the state-of-the-art of neural networks. Reason number 4, Python can be a good substitute for VBA. So I'm going to go real fast here because I talked about it before. If you want to know more about it, you can just click on the video that appears right now. So the main reason is Python uses the same API to talk to Excel and Word as the one VBA uses. If you are a very beginner and you don't know what an API is, let me give you a very simplified explanation. An API is what a programming language uses to make an application do whatever you want it to do. Let me give you a very simple example. If you want to put the number 5 into a cell in an Excel file, you use the API with the number 5 and then it's going to magically write that number into the Excel file. So again, that means you can do everything VBA does with Python. So in addition to that, there are also simplified APIs to work with Excel and Word when you don't need a very sophisticated solution and you want a fast and easy one. So if you're like me and most of the time you don't need very sophisticated solutions, then Python is great for that. Reason number 5, it's here to stay. So Python was created more than 30 years ago, and there are multiple companies right now that rely on Python for software, embedded software, scripting, and so on and so forth. And a good estimation of how long something is going to last is when it was created. Since it was created 30 years ago, a good estimation of how long it's going to last is 30 years. And it's good enough for me. Next up, reason number 6, it's easy to learn. And for me, easy means fast. So let me explain. On average, 6 lines of code in the programming language C is 1 line of code in Python. So that means it's extremely fast to do a lot of things. And for me, fast is very important. Speed is something that I like and that I value a lot. So that's why this point is important to me. Reason number 7, it's popular. So what does it matter? First, by popular, I mean a lot of people use it. So if a lot of people use it, when you have an issue with it, it's easier and faster to solve your problem. Why? Because you can search on forums, Facebook groups, Reddit, Google, etc. If you don't find the answer, you can post your problem yourself and it's likely that you'll get an answer. Again, speed is very important for me because when it takes too long to find a solution, it demotivates me and it makes me want to stop using the language or stop working on whatever I'm working. Reason number 8, you can control your mouse and keyboard with it. In theory, we shouldn't have to need it, but in the real world, things are not that simple. So in theory, we should use an API to do whatever we want to do, right? For example, if we want to manipulate an Excel file, there is an API for it. If we want to manipulate a Word document, there is an API for it. If we want to manipulate a PDF, there is an API for it. So that's the theory. But the difference between theory and practice is that in theory, there isn't one, and in practice, there is. So let's take a real example so that you see what I mean. If you want to manipulate a PDF, as I said, that there is an API to do that. Now, if the PDF is encrypted, what do? Well, you might say you just decrypt it with Python. It's easy to do that. And that's right, it's easy to do, yes, but it doesn't always work. So what if it doesn't work? And you might think, well, just use an external software to do it. And yes, but 2 things. 1, it doesn't always work either. 2, it might only work by deactivating the advanced feature of the PDF. What's the problem with that? The advanced feature of a PDF are what lets you manipulate a PDF in Python. So to sum up, you wanted to manipulate a PDF with Python, but the problem is that it was encrypted. You managed to decrypt it at the cost of not being able to manipulate it with Python, which was the whole point of it. So what does it have to do with taking control over your mouse and keyboard? Well, in that situation, you might not have any other choice but to take control over your keyboard and mouse. So that's just a simple example to show you that sometimes you kind of have to take control over your mouse and keyboard. And most oftentimes it's because the API is either non-existent or not sophisticated enough. So if some of the reasons made you want to take the plunge, then just know that it can be done by looking at YouTube videos and searching on Google. The issue is that it might be a bit confusing when you have no idea how to get started. That's the reason why I created a free online course to help you avoid wasting your time and get demotivated. You can click on the link in the description to get it. Have a great day and see you in the next video.